Hello, Fearless, and welcome to another Tactical Tuesday. We have a continuation tonight of our theme of researching markets, neighborhoods, and next week we're going to talk about properties. So last week we talked about researching a market in Canada or whatever country you might be looking in. But now, how do we find the neighborhood to invest in? That's our focus tonight. And so we're going to start that in just a couple minutes. Here's our intro.
Hey guys, it's Corey and Tiffany, and we're the co-founders of Investor Life.
And we help investors scale their portfolios using other people's money. Fearless, welcome to another Tactical Tuesday.
Welcome to another Tactical Tuesday. We have a really cool topic that we're going to be talking about tonight. This, guys, I hope is a scenario that shows you the power of leveraging your money.
We help investors take their portfolios from 2 or 3, 5 properties maybe, up to 15, 20, 50 properties if that's what they're wanting to.
Really, the sky's the limit. And we help investors scale their portfolio.
For our free weekly live trainings that we do over there on Facebook. Thanks for...
Hey guys, it's Corey from Investor Life, and Tiffany just stuck out her tongue at me. Okay.
Yeah, that was a bad rendition. But guys, today, what wrecks people in real estate? We're going to be talking about that. We're going to make sure that it doesn't happen to you. Welcome back, everybody. And I'm saying hello from beautiful Palm Desert, California. I've been down here for the last, 4 or 5 days. No, I guess today would be day 6 or day 5. And down here on a golf trip, a guy's golf trip. And I got to share something with you before we get into our topic tonight, because to me, it's pretty cool. We go into this, I do this trip. We've been doing it for, I think, 13 years now, friends of mine. And this is what we play for. We come down here every single year and we play for the belt. And so this is the golf championship. It's called Palm Springs Invitational, and we play for a belt. And so I'm happy to say, guys, that, I can wear the belt. It has been won again this year, and so very, very happy to be bringing the belt home with me and the golf, my golf buddy. So it's 2 versus 2, and we won it this year. So hey, happy about that. So that's a win for me. Just wanted to share that with you, and tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about neighborhoods. So last week was markets. Let's narrow it down now to what neighborhood should we pick within a market. How do we research that? We're going to do that live. I'm going to show you a couple of tools tonight that I use, and maybe you might have some tools that you use. And so I'm looking for a little input from you guys as well. What tools do you use to research a neighborhood? So we're going to talk about some of the fundamentals. I'm going to share a video with you. It's about 5 minutes long from our membership site. The free course is called Real Estate Let's Get Started. It's just one of the modules within that course. So if you haven't accessed it yet, you're fully welcome to do that. Jules will share the link, and it's absolutely free. And so we talk about a market, neighborhood, and then next week, guys, we're going to focus in on actually nailing down a property within that neighborhood, within that market. Okay, so that's kind of how the process works and makes it kind of simple, because one of the questions we get a lot from people that are just getting started is, how do I find something? How do I choose a market? How do I choose a neighborhood? How do I choose a property? And so that's why we thought in December of this year, we thought we'd share that all with you. Just look at the chat here. Thank you, Lisa. Yes. And I hope you're winning, Corey. It has been won, Jules. Thank you for that. Yes, Kelly, it's pretty cool. Okay, guys, I'm going to share this video with you. It's about 5 minutes long. It's not very long, but it shows some of the fundamentals and things we want to look for in a neighborhood within a market. And then we're going to share the screen and kind of go through and start researching a little bit. What are some of the tools that we can use to help us. Okay, so we're going to do that. Throw your comments, throw your questions in the chat if you get a chance. And here we go, guys. I'm going to bring it up and let's watch this together.
Some neighborhoods are completely underpriced when it comes to us as investors. The price you pay versus the rent you would be able to collect just doesn't make any sense. You're not going to be able to cash flow. So what other factors, though, do we look for when we're choosing a neighborhood? Well, number one of the things that we look for in these markets is that our prices are low enough and our rents are high enough that we're going to cash flow. But three main areas we're going to look at now when it comes to choosing our neighborhood. Well, one is, and you've heard this a million times, guys, location, location, location. Yes, the location of our properties, the location of our neighborhood is extremely important because that's what good tenants are going to be looking for. And so in order for us to have a lower vacancy, in order for us to fill our vacancies quicker, in order for us to attract a high quality tenant, our property needs to be located in the right spot. So what kind of things are our tenants looking for? What do they want to be close to? Well, we talked about in our market analysis how people want to be close to jobs. If jobs are being created in a market, well, people want to live nearby that or within a certain amount of minutes as far as a drive is concerned. And remember, guys, that people measure distance now not by kilometers, but by time. You never hear somebody say, well, yeah, I live 21.3 kilometers from my job. No, you hear them say, I live a 5 or a 6 minute drive away. That's what's important, is the time. So distance is measured by time. So you want your neighborhood that you were going to be purchasing a property in to be close to where people can get high paid jobs, because those are going to be the tenants you're going to want to market to. Of course, things that help that, things that bring those jobs closer are major transportation changes. Maybe there's ring roads that are built, or freeways that help people have access to the high-paying jobs quickly. If the property or the neighborhood is close to one of an on or an off ramp to one of those freeways, that really helps. Maybe there's high-speed rail or high-speed bus stations in our particular neighborhood or near our neighborhood, major transit stations. These are the types of things that bring the rest of the city or the rest of that market closer to the neighborhood that people are buying in, or that we may consider buying in. Some other things we want to look for in our neighborhood, and of course we want to rank all of these things down, guys. We want to know what is close by this property that we're considering, or this neighborhood we're considering. Do our tenants, are they able to walk for their groceries? Do they need to drive to get to those types of amenities? How far away is shopping? How far away is the nearest coffee shop? Those are the types of things that people look for as well when they are wanting to rent a property. So if our neighborhood has all of those amenities within it, or is at least close by to it, that is going to help us rent our properties as well. And not only when it comes to renting our properties, but when we do go to exit out of a certain property, it attracts buyers to those areas as well. And one other thing that you want to consider, guys, when it comes to location is, what is the reputation of that neighborhood? And this might be something you need to ask around, ask questions, either people who live in that neighborhood or people who live in other parts of that city. Well, how do they view that particular neighborhood? Is it one where there's maybe a higher crime rate? Is it one that's very transient? People move in and out very quickly. Is it one that has a lot of upper class schools? Is it one that people want to be living in or has a great reputation? So the reputation has a big factor on how well that neighborhood is going to perform as far as us as an investor. And, you've heard that saying, it's different across the tracks. It's so true that you can have a house on one side of the train tracks and a house on the other that can be completely different, can be valued hundreds of thousands of dollars apart, just because they are in a different neighborhood. So those are the kinds of things that we need to have boots on the ground. We need to be talking to our investor focused realtors. We need to be talking to our property managers. We need to be talking to others that might live in that city and get their opinion. What do you guys think about this particular neighborhood within this market? And the more information that you're able to gather on that, the more educated you're going to be moving forward, and the less you're going to have as far as surprises go when you're trying to rent that property out, or in the future when you're trying to sell that particular property. So hopefully that helps and gives you a few extra clues, guys. Our first lesson was on a market. We've nailed that down. We've now talked about a neighborhood within that market. And the next lesson is a property within that neighborhood. And how do we analyze that? But hopefully this one helped you today, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.
Okay, here we go. So welcome back, guys. And that was just a video from our Real Estate Let's Get Started free course. And so Jules shared the link there. If you haven't had access to that yet, check it out, because there's a number of different lessons in there that kind of steer you the right direction. Okay, so based on what we talked about, a neighborhood that is close to high-paying jobs, a neighborhood that is close to amenities. Do people want to walk? Do your tenants want to walk to grocery stores? Do they want to walk to parks? Do they want to walk to school? Do they want, do you know what kind of tenants you might be renting to? These are all things that are important. Are there any transportation changes occurring in the future that might bring your neighborhood closer to some of these things? Maybe that's high-speed rail, transit of some sort, a bus system that's being upgraded. Maybe that's a freeway that is being expanded. All of these types of things, if our neighborhood is close to these types of things that are happening, then that is beneficial. And then, of course, the third thing that we talked about in that little video was the reputation of the neighborhood. And that's where you get the boots on the ground type of people, your realtors, etc., your property managers, etc., that can help you to determine the reputation of that neighborhood, so that you're not buying somewhere that other people are scared of being in. Okay, maybe you can't walk at night, all of those sorts of things. These are things that, if especially you are buying out of province or at least out of city, and you might not be aware of it, you need to have people with boots on the ground to tell you the reputation of that particular neighborhood. So these are all things that are important. Now, how can we actually research this? Okay, so we talked about boots on the ground, but before we get to that point, how can we determine some of these things? We're going to actually share the screen here and go over a couple of these things with you, as to just to get a general feel. And so for this example tonight, I'm going to use Edmonton. And the reason I'm using that is because it's a market that I'm familiar with. And so I'm going to tell you a few lessons about that city. However, the same principles apply to whatever market you're choosing to invest in Canada. So coast to coast, it doesn't matter where it is, the same principles apply. Okay, so I want you to understand that, even though the example I'm going to show you tonight is Edmonton, and that's only because that's what I'm very, very familiar with. All right, so as we go through this, guys, if you have pointers, if you have tips that you found have helped you to determine some of these things, maybe a website, maybe a link of some sort, feel free to share that so that everybody can learn. And obviously, we're going to share some of that stuff too. So let's get started. Now, one of the first things that we talked about in that video was being close to high-paying jobs. Now, I'm going to share my screen here. Just give me a second to figure out which screen I'm sharing. Okay, it's that one there. So I'm going to share with you what, where are we? Stop screen. Okay. What we look for in this particular market, in the market of Edmonton, and this might apply to other markets as well. And depending on what market we chose, where are the high-paying jobs in that market? If we get a neighborhood close to the high-paying jobs, doesn't it make sense that that's where our tenants that might have those jobs will want to live? Doesn't it make sense if we're attracting a certain type of tenant to a certain type of property that, okay, we need it to be close to those jobs over there? So I'm going to share a simple Google Maps here, guys. This is nothing super complicated. And here we go. Okay, so here we are. This is Google Maps. Now, we all know how to use Google Maps, right? So I'm just going to clear this because we don't need to know any of this at this point. Now, if we look at this map, this is the city of Edmonton. I'm going to zoom out a little ways. Now, do you see the difference in color here between the tan color the white color. Obviously there's green, blue is lakes. We know what roads look like. But this tan color here, now if I zoom into this beige color, what is it? Well, on Google, it's industrial areas. Now in Edmonton, our particular market, industrial parks are where people make lots of money. Okay, they get paid well, whether you're a welder, a pipe fitter, whatever the case might be, construction, you get paid well if you're having one of those jobs. So if we're close to an industrial center in a city, typically that means that people get paid well to do those trades, to do those jobs. So let's look back at this map here. Now, if we zoom out to the city of Edmonton, do you see a large industrial area to the west of the city? Okay, just going to get rid of that and make it a little bigger. Okay, a large industrial area to the west. Do you see an industrial area here to the east of Edmonton? Now, if we scroll around a little bit, do you see also down here, guys, by the international airport, a large industrial area, which is called Nisku, okay, which is just north of the city of Leduc. So this area here, this one here, this one here, those are well-paid jobs. Now, where do you think properties might work really well? Well, if we're in the southeast corner here of Edmonton, in the Millwoods area, okay, you're right in between this industrial area, and you can get to either of them fairly quickly. Now, if you're in the west end of Edmonton, you can get out to the Atchison area fairly quickly. Okay, so now we're starting to see, okay, well, if I'm in downtown Edmonton, how long does it take for me to get to the west? How long does it take for me to get to the east? Or how long does it take for me to get to the south, all the way down here? And here's the thing, guys, is every city is different. Edmonton in particular, we have found that the central area, typically you're not going to be renting to people working on the outskirts, okay? And you might find that in a lot of other cities as well. But in Edmonton, the high-paying jobs are typically on the outskirts, okay? And that doesn't mean there's not high-paying jobs downtown. There are as well. But we know that the vast majority of, where the money is being made is near the outskirts of our city. So we want to maybe start looking at properties that are down in this area. Now, remember, one of the things that we said in that video is some neighborhoods are outpriced. They don't make sense to buy and then rent out. So a lot of that applies here to the southwest and west part of Edmonton. Okay, it's high priced. It's homes that are, let's say, $700,000 to $1 million. And you might get $3,500, maybe $4,000 a month in rent. So you're going to be negative cash flow on them. Whereas in the southeast part of Edmonton, the average price can be significantly lower, maybe half of that. You're in the 350, the 400,000, maybe even the mid 200s if you're getting a condo, or the low 200s if you're getting a condo. And now, can you rent for enough money? Absolutely, especially if your tenants are close to the high-paying jobs. Same thing with the northeast section of Edmonton. It's a little bit cheaper house prices, and it's close to the high-paying jobs. So you have East Edmonton, and then you have also up in the Fort Saskatchewan area, which a lot of people live or work. Sorry. So what's my point here, guys? And I don't see any questions in the chat. And I want you to throw your questions. I want you to throw what you're getting from this, okay? Because the idea is, if we do a little research on where the paying jobs are in our particular market that we have chosen, maybe it's a small town, maybe it's a medium-sized town, maybe it's a major city. Where are the high-paying jobs that our tenants are going to be having, and then they're obviously going to want to live close. Now, here's the difference, and let's go back to this. I'm going to share the screen again. Let's go back to this map. Where are we? Right here. Okay. One of the places in Edmonton that has a lot of jobs is this mall. Do you see this, guys? West Edmonton Mall. But most of the people with those jobs, working retail jobs, are not what we would consider high paying jobs in comparison to the people that might be working here in Atchison. Okay, so there's a difference in tenant profile. Now, there's nothing wrong with renting to a property or to a tenant that works at West Edmonton Mall. Absolutely not. There's over 10,000 people that work at this particular mall. But what kind of, if we buy something that is a $700,000 property and we need to get $4,000 a month in rent, and that's property is right over here, does it make sense we're going to be renting to somebody that works in retail at West Edmonton Mall? Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, now another neighborhood in Edmonton that is quite important if we go to the north side, this area right here is CFB Edmonton. So this is the Canadian Forces Base, okay, the Edmonton Garrison. And now if we switch to the satellite view of this, guys, you're going to see, okay, this is a large area. This is a Canadian Forces Base. And really the area of housing is fairly small. So what does that mean? What that means is that a lot of the people that work here don't necessarily live there. Where do they live? Where do they want to live? Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, they work here. Where do they want to live? Well, these neighborhoods up here in the north central section of Edmonton, maybe even parts of St. Albert, although it's much more expensive there. You're probably I would say $100,000 to $200,000 less to be in this area than you are to be in this area. Okay, so and because people that work in the military are typically transient, they work at one base and then they get transferred to another for several years and get transferred to another. They may not want to be investing in St. Albert, so they may want Northern Edmonton. Now, why am I saying all of this? The question comes down to, guys, is who is your clientele? Who is your tenant? And that's what we need to determine right at the outset. Who do I want to be renting to? I just showed you in a major city 3 potential tenants. Okay. If we're close to a place like a mall, a major mall like West Edmonton Mall is, that employs over 10,000 people, there's going to be many thousands of people looking to live close by, maybe jump on transit to get there, that type of idea. So now we can take a graph of that. Okay, they're going to be able to afford what based on their salary? Well, if they can afford $1,500 a month, maybe they can afford $1,200 a month. Well, what does that allow me to spend on a particular property? Can I spend $500,000 on a property that is going to rent for $1,200 a month? No. So can I find a property that's maybe $200,000 or less in that geographical area so that I can rent it for $1,200 and I can cash flow? Maybe. And so that's what I start to search for. Now it's the same thing if I'm renting to somebody that makes $6,000 or $7,000 a month because they work in an industrial area of Edmonton. Now, if I want to get within 20 or 30 minutes, or let's say 10 or 15 minutes of that job location, what can I spend on a property so that I can get the rent that I need so that I can cash flow? Well, now maybe I can spend that 400,000, that 500,000, that 600,000 because it's still going to cash flow. You see where I'm going with this? Throw it in the chat. Let me know if this is making sense to you guys, because I don't see much in the chat, guys, and I need to see in the chat. So Lisa is saying, Tina Reimer, oh, my favorite tack shop is there. Okay, where is that? Crossfield, Westport, Ottawa, one of those places, some in the Fort. Hello from Peterborough, Sherwood Park. So we got a bunch of people from all over Canada. Thank you for being here. We're talking about neighborhoods here, guys. And so we've talked about a few things just using Google Maps that we can learn from, okay? But let's take it to the next step. One of the other things that you may want to research when it comes to researching a neighborhood is the walk score. Now, there's a tool called the Walk Score Heat Map Explorer, and I'm going to share this screen with you now. So give me a second. We're going to stop that screen, and we're going to bring up a new one. And let's research this together, guys. Here we go. So this is walkscore.com. Walkscore, sorry, not store.com. And it picked up St. Louis. I'm not sure why, but let's put in Edmonton, Alberta, and see what happens. Okay, so we get a general feel here, guys, just by zooming in and zooming out, how walkable is our neighborhood. Now, people like to be close to stuff, right? Like they like to be close to a coffee shop. They like to be close to their grocery store, maybe close to transit, those sorts of things. What areas of the city here are quite walkable? Now, remember what we talked about. We talked about what type of tenant am I going to rent to, okay? The high paying jobs in this particular city, and this isn't for every city because, you know, Toronto, Vancouver might be different. Other cities might be different. But in Edmonton, the high paying jobs are typically around the outskirts. Are there walkable areas near the outskirts of Edmonton? Okay. Why do you think this area here in West Edmonton is walkable? Well, do you see what's right in the middle, guys? That's where West Edmonton Mall is. So why do you think this area is walkable? Because you can get almost anything you need at that mall. So if you live close to it, you can walk. You don't need a car. You can rely on transit or walking, and you have everything you need. So if that's the tenants you're looking for, and you can find a property in here that's going to cash flow, does that make sense? Possibly. What areas of the city might be close to the high-paying jobs and is also walkable? Okay, are there any areas? Now, do you notice down here in the southeast section of Edmonton, in the Mill Woods area? Now, if we're close to this area, do you see how green that is? Now, can they get on to the Henday and get to the high-paying jobs? Yes. Can they get onto Calgary Trail and get down to Nisku fairly easily? Yes. Is it walkable? Yes. Do you see a number of things starting to fall into place for a neighborhood such as Mill Woods? Absolutely. This is a tool that is something that we may want to consider using depending on the type of tenant that we're renting to. But let me just show you something here that I thought was quite interesting. I'm just going to stop sharing that screen, and I'm going to show you another screen here that I found quite interesting. Let's go to, this is also WalkScore, and we'll share that. Do you notice that the WalkScore here, or this is walkscore.com, same thing, living in Edmonton. And of course, guys, remember, we're just using Edmonton as an example. This is different for every market. But do you notice here that Edmonton in particular is a car-dependent city? What does that tell us? Do you notice here, Edmonton is the 12th most walkable large city in Canada. How many large cities, guys, do we have in Canada? 12? We don't have that many large cities in Canada, right? So what is Edmonton known as? It's known as a city that walkable scores are not quite as important as other parts of Canada. So it's a very much a car-dependent city. Most errands require a car. It's not the most walkable, especially in the winter, guys. And so do we put as much weight on the walk score in Edmonton as we might in other cities? Probably not. If someone's living in this city, they probably not super dependent on a high walk score. So this is where, again, depending on the market, guys, that we chose, this can be completely different from one end to the other. We may or may not even consider the walk score. But if, let's say we're buying a condo in downtown Toronto, we're buying a condo in downtown Vancouver, do you think the walk score in those particular markets might be more important? Absolutely. Absolutely. So these are things that we want to think about. Okay, so one of our Facebook users asked a question. Okay, so my understanding is the jobs will dictate the income. and the incomes determine if the building is overpriced based on how much the tenants can afford rent. Absolutely. So we have to be very sure that we are not buying in an area or buying a building or buying in a neighborhood where the price of that building does not allow us to cash flow based on the rents that we're able to collect. Okay, whether we're buying a multifamily building, whether we're buying a single family home, whether we're buying a condo or a townhouse, it doesn't matter. We need our rents to cover what we're paying for it. So if the jobs that our tenants are going to be near do not allow them to pay enough to pay the rent that we need to cover the purchase price that we're looking to pay, then yes, this is bad scenario, bad scenario, bad scenario. Okay, so you see the difference here. If we can find a building or a property that is priced low enough where the rents can then cover it, and jobs are around that, income levels, income averages are around that high enough to cover those expenses, then obviously that's going to make sense. So things that we need to be aware of. What percentage of the media, I think that meant to be median, household income is considered adequate in your opinion? So what do the banks use, guys? The banks say 33, 34, maybe up to 40% of the household income should cover the rent. And that's kind of the same guidelines that we use as landlords, as investors. If somebody's going to rent our place and 60% of their income is going towards rent, is that going to be sustainable for them? Probably not. Are we going to have issues in the future? Probably. And so we like to keep that in the 35-40% range. We might stretch it if there's different circumstances, but that's the typical range we're going to be looking at. So what I mean by that, so you said what percent of the median household income? Yeah. Okay. So I guess I did answer that question. Between 35 and 40%. Any other questions, guys? So we're talking about a neighborhood. We've shown you a couple of tools using Google Maps, very simple. Where are the jobs? Is our property that we're considering close to that? Or what neighborhoods do we want to start considering? What are the average prices in those neighborhoods? And this is where your realtor can give you that. Okay, so let's go back to Google Maps and just have a look at that. If I say to my realtor, guys, here's Edmonton, let's go back to this. And if I say, okay, based on, the people I want to rent to, the rent that I want to collect, does it make sense for me to buy something in Windermere area here? Okay. Well, we ask our realtor, what does the average house sell for in that area? We ask our property manager, what is the average rent in that area? Pretty quickly, we're going to get an idea that it might be difficult to cash flow because property prices are significantly higher in Southwest Edmonton. Whereas we go to Northeast Edmonton, okay, which is in between, very close to industrial area here and industrial area up in Fort Saskatchewan. And the property prices are significantly less and the rents are still considerably higher. Can we cash flow easier in Northeast Edmonton? Or Southeast Edmonton? Absolutely. So this is where we start getting the opinions of the team. What is the reputation of those neighborhoods as well? We get that from our team, our realtors. These are things that we're going to be asking questions for. So what's my point? Guys, I guess the main point out of everything that we're talking about tonight is do some research on the neighborhood. Last week we talked about the market. You also need to continue that research and do a little bit on the neighborhood that you're going to be buying in, regardless of which market you pick. Okay. Next week, guys, we're going to talk about, now we've picked a market, we've picked a neighborhood. What type of property works well in that neighborhood? Is it a multifamily building? Is it a commercial building? Is it a single family home or a townhouse? Or maybe a 4-plex, 6-plex, 8-plex. We might pick a market and a neighborhood and plan to buy an 8-plex, but there's no 8-plexes in that neighborhood. So that doesn't work. So now what? So that's what we're going to talk about next week, is how do we then choose the property that fits all of these things. Okay, so we got to start big and go smaller and smaller and smaller. I feel that that's a better way to do it than to say, I want an 8-plex, and now I got to find all the 8-plexes, and maybe the markets are good and maybe the neighborhoods are good. No, let's go back. Let's go the other way and start big and come down to small. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's answer some questions here, guys. Can you list all the tools you shared today or will be sharing? Absolutely. So we shared Google Maps, which all of you have access to for absolutely free. We shared walkscore.com. Those were the 2 tools that we looked at. Jules also shared the link to our free real estate Let's Get Started course. So if you want to look at that, we talk more about it in there. And those are the only tools that we use tonight, guys. We only have an hour for this training. And so I'm sure there's more that we could get into, and maybe some of you have some suggestions. So throw that in the chat if you do. How would this work in a smaller community such as Red Deer, where you are only a 15-minute drive from everywhere? Very good question. Guys, let's just, let's figure that out. Let's look at this same page. Where are we? I'm going to share this page with you. Let's check out Red Deer while we're live. I haven't checked it out, so let's see. Now, if we type in Red Deer to walkscore.com, what does it tell us? Here we go, guys. So WalkScore is saying Red Deer is also a car-dependent city. Almost all errands require a car. Red Deer has an average walk score of 22. That's very low, guys. Okay, remember Edmonton was 53. So it's Red Deer is a more car-dependent city. So is a walk score in this scenario as important in Red Deer as it might have been in Edmonton? No, it's not as important. So let's not even worry about walk score in Red Deer. And so let's look more, where are the high-paying jobs in Red Deer? So if we go back to Google Maps, which is fairly simple to do, let me pull that up for you. And we'll check that out. Here we go, guys. It's coming. And we go Red Deer. Red Deer, Alberta. So we might want to just look at this and say, okay, well, where are the high-paying jobs in Red Deer? They may be in this general area, because what is this? This is commercial/industrial area of Red Deer. Here we see up in the, so really what we're seeing is the northern section of Red Deer is where possibly the high-paying jobs are. Also close to Black Falls. Do you see all the tan area there? These are high-paying jobs, guys. So where would Black Falls be a good place to invest? Possibly. And of course, more and more research is needed, guys, than what I'm just doing here on Google Maps. And this is where we get the reputation. We start talking to our teams. But if we were to buy a property up in this general area, would that make sense that people have access to get to their jobs quickly? Yes. Would you rather be 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes? You'd rather be 5. So that's going to help if you're a tenant looking for a property to rent. So there's some suggestions that might work for you. Where would you go to find out the incomes of people? Oh, no, I don't want to skip that question. If you are renting to a young family, how close to schools do you need to be? Closer the better. Now, if you're okay with kids jumping, if there's a bus stop, the school bus stops right out front the complex or right out front the home or within a block, then that could potentially be good. If you're renting to a young family with young kids, maybe they want their kids to be able to walk to school. Maybe the parents are going to drive them anyways. These are things I'm not a big expert on, to be honest with you, but if you're renting to a young family, the closer the better, obviously, to a school. We have a condo, for example, in West Edmonton that happens to have a playground right in front of the fenced yard of that townhouse and 2 schools right across the street. Do we have any issues renting that to families? Absolutely not. Like the second it's up for rent, it's rented to a family because the kids, they can see them playing in right from their living room, and they walk across the street to go to school. So if you're renting to young families, the closer, the better. Where would you go to find out incomes of people in different areas of the city? So this is very city dependent, but I'm going to try to answer this question for you. So just give me 1 second here, because there is a website in our city, and there likely is in most other cities. This is it. Okay, it's called maps.edmonton.ca. I think this is the website that tells us that sort of thing. So let me share the screen with you guys while I do this. We're going to stop that screen and we're going to show a different one now. Let's go here. So this particular, and guys, again, I'm using Edmonton as an example just because I know it. It doesn't mean that this doesn't exist for other cities. The same type of things exist. So if you're looking at Edmonton, it's maps.edmonton.ca. And if we go to, what am I looking for? Am I looking for assessments, tax assessments? Or am I looking for whatever? There's a lot of good stuff here. But if I want to look up some neighborhood information, let's see what we can find. Select a neighborhood. So let's say one of the properties that I was just talking about was in Bissett, it's called. So let's try to find that. There we go, Bissett. Find neighborhood. Okay, so this is a property in, let me zoom out. Can I zoom out easily? Hopefully you guys can see this. This is Edmonton, okay? There's Edmonton. And this is in the Mill Woods area of Edmonton, a little neighborhood called Bissett. And you see how small a neighborhood is considered? Like we might have thought that a neighborhood meant this whole area right here. But you see how many different neighborhoods are included in this. So this particular neighborhood of Bissett. Now, if we go neighborhood profiles for the city of Edmonton, this is going to bring us to another site. And we got to look up Bissett again. I haven't done this for quite some time, so bear with me, guys. But we look at Bissett, and it's downloading a PDF. So let me switch so you guys can see that. Here we go. What does it tell us about Bissett? It says one of the 26 neighborhoods in Mill Woods. You're going to get a little history on it. Okay, that's all right. There we go, guys. That's all it's telling me about Bissett. Now, I can guarantee you, because I have seen this before, that is not the place to go. What do we want to do here? We want to go. I can't remember exactly where to go. So, what I will tell you is that you can look up neighborhood profiles. Maybe this is it. No, that's the same spot I was in. Okay. I don't know exactly where to find it while I'm live here with you. And so I'm not going to spend the time looking for that. But there are spots in the City of Edmonton website where you can go, and it will actually tell you the average incomes of people within that neighborhood. And it'll tell you the average age of people in the neighborhood. So, are you wanting to rent to people of an older age, or are you wanting to rent to young families? That can help you make that determination as well. Local crime maps, that absolutely, Renee, is a good place to go. So thank you, Jules, for sharing that link. Good, there we go. Another link that Jules has shared. The website can help you find income based on job title, and city. Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Jules, for that. So every city is going to have this information. Most cities will have this on their websites as well. And worst case scenario, guys, you can actually contact the town, the municipality, and ask this information to the town office, and they will help you out to find this information. Okay, so there we go. Thank you very much, Jules. Appreciate that for sharing the link. Tonight, guys, that's it. That's where we're going to end it. I don't want to overload you with this, but I want you to understand the difference between a market, between a neighborhood, and next week we're going to continue this conversation and we're going to talk about a property within that neighborhood and how do we nail that down. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share you behind the scenes what a realtor sees. What does a realtor have access to when they are searching? And if you know this, then you're able to ask your realtor to search for this particular criteria. And if they do that, that can really help you to find properties that maybe the general population is not finding. So we're going to go and look at some of the tools that realtors get to use a little bit behind the scenes, and that will help to educate you a little bit on our search capabilities, the search capabilities of realtors. Okay, so that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you for joining us. We will see our Ignited members over in our laser session in about 10 minutes or so at the top of the hour. And hopefully this helped guys to narrow down how to find a good neighborhood within a market. Take care, guys. Have a great evening.